Welcome to the Valley Today, a public service presentation of KAIL TV. Analog to digital has changed the landscape for broadcasters and end users. Convergence is now the norm. We'll speak with engineer Tom Driggers as we explore the analog to digital changeover. Up next on the Valley Today.
Welcome to the Valley Today, and fortunately today we have collared our engineer. It's a rare opportunity to do so, but we have an opportunity to talk with Tom Driggers and discuss some of the things that have happened in the last 10 years now, Tom, since we first went digital.
Yeah, digital for 10 years so far.
Now, Tom, this is kind of a retro show because we're going to recap a lot of things we've done in the last 10 years, and believe me, it's been a hell of a ride.
Yeah, it's been a fun 10 years.
And I think that broadcasting in this 10-year span has probably changed faster than the previous 60 before it.
Yeah, the last 60 years has been pretty standard run-of-the-mill technology. In the last 10 years, it's taken off like a rocket.
Now Tom, we all are dealing with digital in our lives completely in almost every facet of it now. When, in television terms, did the idea start to initially kick around and become more and more of a movement? I recall seeing things as early as the mid-90s.
Yeah, about the mid-90s, digital technology started to come into play. People talked about it, developed standards, and around 2000, 2001, it really started becoming a reality, and people started implementing the technology and putting it into their studios and finally transmitter sites and finally to the consumer.
Now, Tom, in all fairness, we've spent a lot of money getting to this point where we are today. What was the main reason to go digital and ditch analog? Can you recollect that at all as to what was the motivating factor to do this? Was it to obtain more spectrum and free up other areas, or was it just a sign of the times that we had to change?
Yeah, the main reason the FCC went ahead with the digital technology and transition was, in fact, to free up more spectrum for other services and to increase the capabilities of TV stations. Before, if you had a TV channel, you had one TV channel. Now, within your same 6 megahertz of spectrum, you can have easily 2 HD channels and a couple SD channels, maybe 1 or 2 mobile DTV channels, auxiliary audio and data services. So it's really opened up a world of possibilities for extra services from the broadcast provider.
And do you think that was the main thrust of going digital, was to compress our signals and yet allow us to have more opportunities within that spectrum?
Yeah, the main reason was to have more efficient use of the spectrum, but along with that came the additional capabilities of the system.
Now, Tom, I had the pleasure of meeting you in 2000.
Yes, 2000.
And we got to working together because we knew the digital transition was coming.
Yeah.
Mandated by the government.
Right.
You and I, signed on a digital transmitter approximately 2001.
Yeah.
And today we are at the end of 2011. So it's been exactly almost 10 years with this transition.
Yeah.
Do you feel that the motivating factors which we've just discussed were and have been realized now, or are we going to continue this constant change and rediscovering ourselves in the future? I imagine we probably will. Things will get smaller, more efficient, tighter.
It's like the PC industry. In the 80s, PCs came out and technological advances were slow but coming, and progressively year by year the technological improvements have just snowballed. So we've gone in the last 10 years finally stabilizing the current system of digital transmission. I imagine the pace of technology improving at a dramatically increased rate. They were talking about 3D now, and mobile TV is in the works, and we broadcast that as well. It's a new technology. There's so much that can happen once you transition all your technology base to the digital realm. It's much easier to make tweaks and changes.
Well, let's take a look back. We put this thing on the air in roughly 2001. Nobody knew it was on. we had to run it by government mandate and waste a lot of electricity doing so. I don't recall a lot of fine tuning in that first 5 years or so when we had it up and running, because nobody was watching it, nobody could see it anywhere.
Yeah.
Then comes along 2009, where the government again steps in and says, now we're going to make it a reality. And I believe that, and I'm going to try and tweak Bob Harris, the producer of this show, maybe to get a couple of retro episodes that we've done about technology. But with that said, we got it up and running. We're running the electricity to do it. 2009 rolls along, and even then a target date of going digital was delayed by our current president because he wanted to give more time for the consumers to get caught up with the technology. And let's face it, television has become a little confusing at times. Because of all the devices we have. Not everybody just has the TV set anymore. You got boxes and converter boxes and PlayStations and all kinds of ways to bring the stuff in, including the internet now. So we get to 2009, we face a delay, and then in June of 2009 we sign on and we shut off the analog. We did a lot of promoting to allow the public about the knowledge of this change and what was going to be needed, and obviously we discussed converter boxes and antennas and so forth. With that in now behind us, and we're now in 2011, I'm hearing things about Super HD TV. But before we go there, let's educate the public. A lot of people I've been to their houses, they buy an HD TV set.
Right.
They turn it on, they plug it in, and they think they're watching HD.
Right.
They're not.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of cases people buy an HD TV and instantly assume everything they're watching is HD. When in reality, there's a significant amount of programming still being broadcast from TV stations that is an SD. It may be up converted to HD, or the problem is they are watching their cable channels off a cable box into their HD TV. Although the channels are SD, the TV is displaying it full 16:9 format, but it's not really HD. There's a lot of interconnected components that have to all fall in line for you to really have true HD from the transmission point through to the consumer.
Well, in fact, then, if you buy an HD TV set, and obviously the prices have come down quite a bit, and the quality is improved, LED, plasma, LCD, any variety of flavors. It's like going to 31 flavors for ice cream now. But my point being is that, yeah, you can buy an HD set and get HD without hooking up to a service if you use an antenna, because we, the broadcasters, are now broadcasting in HD and digital. However, our programming is not 100% HD.
Correct.
And in many cases, I think that the commercials that we run, many of them, recent statistics told me that only 27% of the commercials made now are in HD, but that number is growing exponentially faster, is it not?
Yeah. HD implementation in the world of commercial advertisement has been slower than actual programming. It's kind of like the chicken and egg scenario. If there's a lot of HD programming available, then the advertisers would follow suit. And at the same time, a lot of HD programming can be received more easily if you have an over-the-air antenna, because you plug that directly to your HD TV and it will interpret it as such. So there's still a lot to have to deal with in the technical realm to understand what you're getting and what you're not getting.
Yeah, now some of the TVs have gone to the point of telling you when you're in HD and when you're not. They've at least added those features.
Yeah.
And you can compress your screen or widen your screen, expand your screen. All of these features are on your remote control now.
Yeah.
By the way, looking at a remote control today is like, it's baffling to me. I remember the original remote controls had 5 buttons on them and an on and off switch.
Yeah, if you're back in the days, remember the clicker.
Yeah. So, again, getting back to HD, a lot of people are lulled into thinking they're watching HD just buying the TV set. What they don't understand is they have to get the proper gear
Or service.
or service.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Satellite service, cable service, telco, which involves the phone companies. And even then, when you sign up to those services, you're not getting HD until you spend the extra money for the HD package. Is that not?
Yeah, that's typically
case?
correct. Other than over-the-air TV, if you want HD, you're more than likely having to buy a specific HD package with your service provider. So, which is different than over-the-air TV. Plug the antenna in, and if it's HD, you've got HD.
Well, okay, so the true savings to the viewers would be to get over-the-air TV and then get the proper antenna, and you've got HD TV for free.
Yes.
But in order to get it through a service, you have to buy a digital tier, perhaps. And
Yeah.
all of these companies have packaging that escalates quickly in price.
Yeah, it can get expensive if you want a lot of HD.
Right. So here at KAIL, we've been upgrading servers and switchers and actually being the guinea pigs of this whole situation and being one of the first ones in the market with our digital setup. We're now fine-tuning and we're anticipating and always listening to, again, they want to make a change to the HD. It's not enough, I guess. They want to do super HD TV. Can you tell
Yeah.
us something about that?
Yeah, there's a lot of work going on in even higher high def. I've spent some time in Japan at some expos watching what they call high vision. They've even demonstrated that at industry conventions here in the U.S. It's amazingly more detailed, huge projection screens that look like you'd reach in and touch the object there. It's just really amazing, but really expensive and still in the research stages.
Well, I understand that also would facilitate an easier climb to 3D TV that they're now talking about. Now that's kind of a slow roller because it's very expensive. But I'd like to get into more of that with you on our next segment. We've run out of time on this
Yeah.
one. And thank you a lot for getting us caught up. It's hard to compress 10 years of thought process into a show like this. But we're doing our best to let people know that when you buy an HD TV set, you're not an HD until you do the proper alterations to get that signal. We're trying to cover about 10 years worth of history here in a short period of time. We've been talking about high definition television and where you can see it, if you even have it yet. Now, I believe about 80 to 90% of the population has purchased HD TV sets.
Yeah,
And they are slowly evolving into that being the mainstream. There are some holdouts with analog sets like myself, which work perfectly fine, and I use a converter box at home.
Right.
For digital television. Was HD TV or digital, the concept, an American invention, or were the Japanese ahead of us on this deal? I remember that we were talking about it and there were manufacturers in this country, but the process was slow with regulations and proof of performance and so forth, while the Japanese were scurrying quickly and they may have gotten ahead of us at this point. Where are we with that right now?
Actually, the whole world pretty much started developing HD or digital TV standards around the same time. And amazingly enough, as far as you consider like the Japanese, so tech-oriented society, they actually went to digital transition after the United States did, about a year later. So that was a surprise to me. But every part in the world came up with a different system. Europe has one system, Japan has its own system, the United States has its own system.
So they're
it's
uniquely
pretty varied.
different
Yeah,
to some degree?
They're all uniquely different in varying degrees, and some have technical advantages more than others, and the systems really vary widely in how they're implemented, the robustness of the signal, and such.
Would I be able to bring a television set from Japan from somebody's living room and plug it in here and it would work, or would it not?
No, it would not work. If you brought a television from Japan based on their system, it would not work here, and vice versa. If you took a American ATSC television to Japan, it wouldn't work there.
Okay, and conversely, probably Europe in the same boat.
Right. Europe has a different standard as well.
Why do you think that and here's the biggest problem of, I think everyone grapples with this: cell phones, computers, laptops, iPods, Androids, whatever you want to call it. People feel guilty because they buy something, and as we have experienced, we buy the gear we're supposed to have, and 2 years later, the manufacturer's saying, "Oh well, we don't want to touch that anymore; it's obsolete." And my question is, what do you think the longevity of this current system is, and are we going to be talking a year from now of get rid of that HD TV set because you need to have the Super HD TV set or the 3D TV? And as you can see in our control room, the gear keeps changing at a very expensive rate. Are we kind of plateaued off right now until the next big changes come?
Actually, no. The current ATSC standard we use for television transmission now is actually being debated. There'll be a new system in the works called ATSC 3.0, and that will help technologies such as mobile TV. Right now, the current mobile television standard that is implemented within the ATSC transmission system is kind of an add-on packed in with the additional system. You need a specific separate chip in your mobile receiver device to get that. ATSC 3.0 will better address technologies such as mobile TV, data transmission, etc., all in one encompassing easily more changeable standard. So it's foreseeable in the future that that may actually impact consumers a bit.
Could that be the uniting force finally that brings Japan and Europe and the United States to a more standardized?
Actually, no. This ATSC 3.0 is still U.S. standard solely. Europe, Japan still have their own system that actually works fairly robustly. The ATSC 3.0 is almost chasing those European and Asian standards to catch up with robustness.
Okay, so we're behind the curve a little bit then.
Yeah, in a way now our current ATSC is behind the curve and then being re-engineered.
Well, doesn't that make you comfortable, folks, that you're going to have to spend more money on another television set fairly soon, I would imagine, if you want to keep up with the Joneses?
Yeah, so hopefully when they develop the ATSC 3 standard, they do make it backwards compatible so people don't have to go out and buy a new TV again. And fortunately on our end, all our equipment is designed to be software upgradable. We get the new software upgrade from the manufacturer, plug it in and play.
Now, Tom's a member of the Society of Broadcast Engineers, and I don't think these guys just go in a dark room somewhere and try to figure out how we can spend your money. I think these are government implemented desires that are transitioned to you guys like you in the Society of Engineering, and you have to kind of bob and weave to figure out how to implement it.
Yeah, what happens is the government is a politer way to say full of bureaucrats who are not engineers, who tell the engineers what to do. And with that myriad of laws that come out, the engineering societies and community at large has to figure out standards. How do we comply with these new laws that keep coming out?
I knew there was a reason why I saved my analog TV set and only got a digital converter. It was for $40 and it was given to me by the government for free.
Right.
In the desire to keep over-the-air TV connected to people. Now, years later, we're in 2011, that very same government that wanted to make sure everyone got these converter boxes for their analog sets is now talking about taking away some spectrum from broadcasters for other uses. And that could further diminish the amount of channels you have, compressing them down into a lower set of channels, I guess is the layman's way of explaining it, or unless you could help me with that.
Yeah, the FCC is currently looking for more spectrum, and it's debatable whether it's needed, but for wireless services such as internet streaming to mobile devices such as cell phones, pads. So they are talking about removing even further upper channels from the TV spectrum, and that would force a compression of current TV channels into a tighter group.
So you'd say that they'd lop off, remember in the analog world we went from channel 2 VHF to channel 69 UHF.
Right.
When the digital conversion happened, they lopped off everything after channel 51.
Right.
It's gone, the broadcasters relinquished that.
Yeah.
Now they want to perhaps go even further, but you say they'll take from the top more, and this is a guess.
It's a
but
guess.
it's an educated guess, that they'll probably take more off the top and keep pushing the broadcasters down into the VHF positions.
Yeah, so they'll probably take more channels off the top of the UHF band, say above 30, 35 and up, and then try to compact a lot of stations into tighter channel groupings, and that may even force some stations back down into the VHF band.
What do you think of the longevity of television? Is it here to stay, or are we slowly pushing it out the door?
Oh, no, television's here to stay. All of the over-the-air broadcast services, television, AM, FM, they're not going to go away because it's the most efficient way to transmit information, whether it's data or audio or video or combination thereof, to the public.
Yeah, I think that we realized that impact during these tornadoes recently in the Midwest and other natural disasters. Television was the first responders.
Yeah.
And the beauty of television was that people still have that little set in the back room somewhere that they could turn on, either a battery powered or something like that, and get emergency alerts. And I think TV was credited with also being quickest to the punch. Whereas if you had to go to a computer to find out where the tornado is, you couldn't get that information quickly. So that was the advantage of television. And I agree with you that is probably going to be its saving grace, is that it's local.
Yeah.
It brings the information to you immediately, and we're going to go through another metamorphosis that we have yet to determine how that's going to be, but we'll still exist.
Yeah. So over-the-air broadcasting is the best method in an emergency. That we're talking about emergency situations. If there is a major earthquake, fire, any natural disaster, people pull out their radio and hopefully their portable TV. Mobile TV really took center stage as a method of disseminating emergency information in Japan, for an example, during the earthquake and tsunami. The cell systems were down, phone systems were down, but people could turn on their mobile TV, watch the local news, and get on-the-spot information as what's going on and what they need to be doing.
I guess the lag time in this country is getting those devices to the consumers. I've heard talk of them implementing chips in cell phones and laptops so that they can be integrated with over-the-air broadcast and even radio.
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion right now. There's discussion mandating FM receiver chips in cell phones, but personally, I'd like to see that go further to FM, AM, and mobile TV chips. So it's a lot to try to shove into one device, and I think the device manufacturers are more concerned about selling a device that runs your battery out too quickly.
Yes. So I would say urge caution to the consumers. Hang on to that iPhone you currently have or your other device that you may be looking at the internet with, because in the future, maybe a year from now or so, they'll be chipping them with over-the-air capabilities, both radio and television.
Right. I'm hoping for it.
And that is a service you don't have to pay for because
Right.
it's already over-the-air
Right.
free. It's the
Free
people's
over-the-air.
airwaves, obviously. So it would be a good thing to have, is to have your iPhone, and then say you wanted to watch the news, you could just hit a button and you could be on over-the-air receiving that signal.
Right.
At no charge.
Right. That's
Okay.
what we all want.
Yeah. So we've got a couple things that are also coming up with the digital transition. We've got the Calm Act, which is going to make commercials sound the same as the audio on programs.
Right. No more blaring commercials.
And I know that the EAS system is going to be revamped. That's the emergency alert system for all of you out there in case there's a disaster. We're looking forward to a November national trial date for all of this.
Yeah, November 9th coming up, the National EAS test, a message from the President, which has actually never been done before. So this will be interesting on November 9th to see if a message from the President of the United States can be efficiently distributed to all the broadcast stations.
Well, Tom, we're out of time, and unfortunately, the time goes so fast
It goes
when it
quick.
involves this kind of subject material. We could talk for hours, I could imagine.
Oh, yeah.
But to compress what we need to do in a very short time, we'll have to do another episode with you
Okay.
concerning some of the new technologies that will obviously happen in the next year or so.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, thank you very much,
Thank
Tom.
you.
Thank you for the Society of Broadcast Engineers and for this great TV station trying to keep you informed on the ever-changing world of television.